Hello, good evening and welcome. I'm Menome, that's how it's spelt, that's how it's pronounced. These are the purple glasses of power and this is my first stream. We're going to be talking today and playing Myst Masterpiece Edition on PC. Originally released in 1993, Myst is a game that eventually went on to sell over 6 million copies and was the best-selling game on PC until it was usurped in 2002 by The Sims, another quote-unquote casual game. Myst is a series that's been somewhat lambasted by what we term as hardcore gamers. It's a game that places players in a somewhat unique environment, one that features almost no interface, one that relies on players to look around them to solve puzzles based on the environment using their own mental faculties, features no enemies, no deaths, and almost no failure points depending on how you view the endings. As such, it's been viewed as rather a casual affair, and in some people's eyes as the one of the progenitors of what we now term as the walking simulator. Myst itself was the brainchild of Robin and Rand Miller, the founders of Cyan Studios, who are now known as Cyan Worlds, due to a number of legal issues with the studios that we don't need to go into here. The brothers themselves had not been involved very much in video games. They played some adventure games such as the Zork series. They've been involved in tabletop gaming, especially Dungeons and Dragons. But they themselves wanted to create games that were for specifically non-gamers. That's where the idea of Myst came from. They created some games that were more geared towards children, most notably a series of games known as The Manhole, but the Myst was their first title that was geared more towards adults. And as such, what we find in Myst is a more adult story. That doesn't mean that the content is what we would refer to nowadays as adult. There's certainly nothing along the lines of gore, horror, no sex or nudity. It's just something that feels more mature compared to their earlier work, which we may get into in a later stream, but for now we'll go for what is their most well-known title. Myst itself was originally developed for the Mac computers of the time and developed for the HyperCard system, which is comparable to PowerPoint, and then ported over to Mohawk for PC. It followed around a 2-year development cycle. So originally started development in 1991 before finally being released in 1993. During this development time, the first ever release of Apple's QuickTime movie format was released, which allowed them to insert the full motion video for some of the effects and the actors that would appear sporadically throughout the game. The actual island itself and the thematic setting came from the mysterious island by the author Jules Verne, hence the title of Myst coming from, of course, the word mysterious. Myst itself, the islands and the ages, they were created using a 3D rendering process. So the entire object was fully 3D rendered rather than being a hand-drawn object. Whilst unfortunately the 3D files themselves were lost to time, this does mean that the objects were fully 3D rendered like they would be in modern day technology. Unfortunately, computers at the time were just unable to run such a thing, and thus we have the point and click method by which we now go through the game. As such, we have the slideshow format, which is where some of the jokes came about of it being an interactive PowerPoint simulation, but thankfully, sort of as time's passed by, attitudes towards Myst have thankfully softened somewhat, and it's now seen for what it is, sort of a robust interactive experience, which resulted in it being accepted into the, let's get the name right here, the Museum of Modern Art in New York in 2003. It's been added to their collection of video games, and I think it's quite right that it's been added there. My personal experience with Myst, I don't know how I knew of it growing up, but it was something of a cultural zeitgeist, and I knew of it. The first PC I ever owned was towards the end of 1999, one that I received from my grandfather as a hand-me-down. It was a 486 DX266, which meant it ran at a blistering speed of 66 megahertz and had a whole 16 megabytes of RAM. This meant that for the time it didn't run very much. I could run Myst, thankfully. I could run the original Doom and games of a similar ilk, but more modern titles were beyond it. And as such, I was able to play and appreciate some of the older titles, which is what has led over the years towards this stream. What I'm hoping to do is to do a deep dive into these older games, talk about them as I'm playing them, which means that rather than sort of spend one stream per game, we'll take multiple streams, go through them, talk about them in detail as we're playing them, and just look into some of the design process and also sort of some of the good things and some of the bad things, and also see how games have progressed since then. So what we'll do is we'll boot up Myst on here and switch over.
The moment I fell into the fissure that the book would not be destroyed as I had planned. It continued falling into that starry expanse of which I had only a fleeting glimpse. I've tried to speculate where it might have landed. I must admit, however, such conjecture is futile. Still, questions about whose hands might one day hold my Myst book are unsettling to me. I know my apprehensions might never be allayed. And so I close, realizing that perhaps the ending has not yet been written.
And so here we are, a nameless protagonist, implanting ourselves into the game world. We're not, for instance, from another game released the same year in Doom, we're not the Doom Marine, we're not Lara Croft, we're not a named person, we are ourselves simply discovering this book in the starry expanse. You'll notice nothing of a familiar gaming interface. Other point and click games of the time, such as the Monkey Island series, Sam & Max, other LucasArts title, would have something along the lines of the push and pull, look, give, all that sort of thing around here. Instead, we have this hand representing our own interactions with the world. So what we can do, we can click on the book. It opens up with the title of Myst. We open it up and it's a book, but instead of writing inside, it's a picture that moves, which is highly unusual for a book. And it's showing us this incredibly odd island. We notice we've had our usual pointer there that we've had to start with. We move it over the picture, it moves to a different icon, which indicates we should be able to use it. Click on that. We find our view shifted, ourselves moving, teleporting, and into the world that the book was showing us. What we'll do is just that, just to make things look a bit nicer. And the first thing we see is both similar and dissimilar. We're on a dock. We hear similar noises that we might hear at a dock. We've got wooden flooring. We've got the lapping of waves. If you listen carefully, there's seagull-like sounds in the distance. Over in the corner here, we've got something with an almost seagull-like outline, but with almost reptilian features and an elongated tail. We look ahead, we see stairs, but yet some weird machinery up here. We turn to our right. There's a ship, but it's submerged, and it's somewhat anachronistic for what would have been 1993. Something of a galleon type style to it, which in turn would be anachronistic with what looks like later technology there. So we move forward. We have a switch. It's in a down position. If it's down, we'll flick it up. And again, as you'll see, as I said before, we have the sort of slideshow format to it. Ominous music as we move forwards. Originally Myst wasn't going to feature a soundtrack. It was recorded rather late in the day. I can't remember if it was Robin or Rand Miller originally wanted it to just be filled with ambient sound, but a soundtrack was composed around 40 minutes or so of original music, which was released separately later on. And I think it's something that does add quite a lot to the experience of the game in total. Find another one of these odd boxes of a switch. Again, that's the default position. That's a game. Nothing seems to happen when I click it, but as the default position is down, why not go up? There doesn't seem to be anything else here to move this just yet. So explore. There's a note. Catherine, I have left for you a message of utmost importance in our four-chamber beside the dock. Enter the number of marker switches on this island into the imager to retrieve the message. Yours, Atris. Who is Catherine? Who is Atris? And are these the marker switches? If so, we better start counting them. We found 2 already. That will be a third. So we'll just flick that one up to start with. And see if we can find this chamber that we've apparently missed. Oh, here it is, hidden in the rock face. Obviously I've been very contrived with my walkthrough here. I've completed Myst a number of times. I could theoretically reach the good ending of this game in under 2 minutes, but for those of you who have maybe not seen this before, going down here, we see something that looks, again, very Jules Verne-y, something that could fit very easily into the quarters of Captain Nemo in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. We move in, got this odd pool. Again, there's no interface, there's no use button. We've got something to attract our attention here, a simple light. Press it. Switches off. Evidently it was already on. So what it's displaying at the moment is essentially a screensaver. Push it up. What we've missed on our way in appears to be this. So, settings, dimensional imager. That must be what we've just been looking at. Topographical extrusion test. 40. Water turbulent pool. Assuming that's what we've seen. 67. Marker switch diagram. 47. So what we'll remember is 40 and 47. Again, attracted to this by the light. And yes, 67 for the water. So, 40. Now we see here some obviously very early F&V rendering work here, showing a topographical, i.e. map rendering situation. Nothing here that's actually very relevant to the game itself. So we'll try the marker switch diagram. And so that shows us that indeed what the note was referring to is indeed these little boxes. Those are marker switches. So we've counted 3 so far. Let's see how many we can find. 3. 4. As we explore the island, we notice odd mixture of different designs coming from what almost look like different times of history. We've got a rather Art Deco looking rocket here, some Greco-Roman looking architecture, a very futuristic looking tower up here in the distance. Again, something again sort of more Greco-Roman, but something that's obviously different in style to here. Number switch there. I've lost count already, so that's number 6. 7. Plain old modern brick. Wood. So I believe, if I remember correctly, that's 9. So we'll go to here. Hopefully I'm right, or I'm going to look very silly. I am very silly. It's 11, isn't it? Or is it 10?
hard for me to believe. Most of my books have been destroyed. Catherine, it's one of our sons. I suspect Achenar, but I shouldn't leap to conclusions. I'll find him and Cirrus as well. Oh, I should have known better than to have left my library checked for so long. Well, I've removed the remaining undamaged books from the library and placed them in their places of protection. You shouldn't have to use the books until I return. But if you've forgotten the access keys, remember the tower rotation. Oh, and don't worry, Catherine. Everything will be fine. I'll see you shortly. Oh, wait, and erase this message after you've viewed it, just to be safe.
So we see there Atreus, who becomes one of the main characters of the series. He mentions there Catherine, his wife, and his two sons, Achenar and Cirrus. He seems to feel that one of his sons has been sabotaging his books and has been generally been a bit of a nuisance. With this series, whilst we do come across some of the characters in an FMV sense in this particular game, they're generally kept to a bit of a minimum, mainly due to sort of technology constraints of the time, and so the storytelling is left to more of an environmental sense. We pick up the characterizations of both brothers and a little bit of Atreus, generally by what we find in living quarters, objects lying around, and we'll get more to that as we find those. I will just take a quick swig of water so I don't die. So we've had a quick look around the main island itself. Activated most of those marker switches, but not been inside any of the buildings. So what we'll do is we'll have a look inside this main library type area. We can see forms like of a hexagonal shape. We've got a painting of the inside here, which seems a bit curious. And we've got what looks like a map of the island. And we go up to it, and we see here we've got all of these bits. If you're playing this for the first time and you hadn't activated any of those marker switches, this would all be somewhat blank. As you activate those marker switches around the island, these different areas start lighting up. Use the interface here. You can click on this and it makes the most horrible noise in the world, but it allows you to rotate the tower, to spin around and lock onto different parts of the island. The reason why we'll come across in a small while. What we also have here are two books, one blue, one red. What's inside them? Let's have a look. Apparently just static. A page, we can add it to the book.
Serious? Are you? See you. Nah. Help me. Bring blue pages. Never. Just I must have the blue page. Hand to me.
So you see there, someone's apparently trapped inside the book. They're showing what can be best described as something of a manic personality. And yes, for no daff, I think that's the best reaction you can have, just a simple bet. But there was another book left on the other side of the library. Have we got the same situation there? Let's have a look. We can surmise that it's probably static again without the page, so let's pop the first red page in.
Why? Bring me a red page. I can't see it. Need a red page. You must. Make a break. I am serious. Give it up. There's one thing I want to rescue.
So in this case, someone who appears maybe a little more balanced than the person in the blue book, we can surmise that this may be Cyrus, Atris's other son. The person in the blue book had cried out the name Cyrus, so it's probably not them. Unless we can glean from this information that the other person must be Akthar, Atris's other son. We've seen Atris's face in the vision pool from underneath the dock, and so we've seen 3 of the main characters and 25-year-old spoilers. Those are the 3 characters we'll see throughout the entirety of the game. Unfortunately, Catherine herself won't show up for, well, she won't show up in this game at least. And so we've set the tower rotation for the first set of puzzles here. Oh, hello Skikakis, welcome. And yes, it is Menome on Twitch at Twitch. What we're going to do first is a spot of light reading, by which I mean heavy. We see here that we've got a bookcase, where if we go and look at the majority of the books, they appear to have been burnt or damaged in other ways. We look around, they've got covers, symbols depicting various creatures or other objects, but 4 of them still survive. So we turn to the first book. Emmett was the first to live on the rocks. He named them the rocks because that is what they were, a group of sharp rocks clustered together in the middle of a large sea. This was where Emmett lived. He enjoyed his life. Emmett would occasionally swim to nearby rocks, as it was never too far of a distance. One day another person appeared on the rocks, for no apparent reason to Emmett. Emmett named this new person Branch. Emmett and Branch quickly became friends, swimming and hunting for fish together often. Emmett showed Branch the simple cave in which he lived on the largest rock. Soon, Branch discovered a place where he decided to live, also on the same large rock. The sun always shone brightly in their world, and the water was always dazzlingly clear, allowing them to see almost to the deep ocean floor which surrounded them. Though the sun always shone, it was never too hot for the boys. A light breeze always came from the north and cooled the area down. Hello, Juvenile Prime. You'd almost forgotten all about this game. How could you forget about Myst? Oh. One day, while Branch was swimming and having fun in the water, he noticed another boy swimming. Branch brought the new boy to Emmett to find out what to call the new boy. Emmett said the boy should be called Will. Will was soon a part of the group, and all three of the boys swam and enjoyed their perfect world. At least, that is the story I was told when I arrived today on the island. Emmett, Branch and Will were surprised to see me at first, but even before the night ended we were all becoming good friends. Today, the second day on this newly created age, a strange thing happened. It was not strange to me, but the three boys did not understand what was happening. While I was relaxing under a large tree on one of the smaller rock islands, it began to rain. It was a nice rain that lasted for about an hour in the morning. I explained to the boys that the rain was not harmful, yet they obviously still feared it. Before going to sleep tonight, I told the boys that I would leave the following day. I told them that while I was gone, I would make a surprising change in their world. They didn't understand, not that I expected them to. I still do not fully understand what happened today. I was experimenting with the art, testing the limits of the rules as dictated to me by Father. I attempted to create a boat by writing it into the world. I thought everything was planned correctly, yet somehow the boat had become gripped by the rock and broken in half. Although this test did not turn out as I had hoped, I now have answers to a few of the questions my father never answered. As for the boat, I can see the boys enjoy it anyway, and with that I am pleased. They have played on it all day. Even though the boat cannot move, I have enjoyed studying from it. It is a much sturdier platform than the jagged rocks. In the course of my observations, I have learned some very interesting things regarding the solar system of this age. The nights are absolutely beautiful here. I have made note of and named a number of constellations that pass above me. Also during the night, I catch glimmers of light from the horizon which I have not been able to discover if it is created by some natural phenomenon or by additional people on far-off islands or rocks. I should very much like to discover which. I rather suspect it is additional people, which would explain the appearance of Branch and Will. The rain today was slightly heavier than usual. Just when the boys were getting used to the light rains, a small storm arrived. They were frightened of the heavier rain, not to mention the thunder and lightning. If rain has never fallen here until recently, as the boys tell me, I would like to discover why it is falling now. Regardless, I have decided to return home for a short while. I have also been thinking of some plans for a lighthouse that I hope to construct soon. I think that perhaps by shining a bright light toward the horizon, it might prove my suspicions regarding additional inhabitants. They would be curious about the light and travel to discover its source, if they have the means. I returned with many tools that I will need for construction of the lighthouse. I have decided that once the lighthouse is completed, I will leave for some time and let the world's own imagination have control. We have worked 3 weeks on the lighthouse now, and are making great progress. The rock that we are building on seems to not be as secure as I would like. I have had to alter my plans slightly, but those alterations pose no real problem. General Prime, I know where you live and I will find you. The boys are quite strong and have been helping me immensely. I will estimate construction and it will be done within 2 days. The lighthouse is finished and we are all proud of our creation. The boys are amazed at the structure wrought from rock with their own hands. That evening we powered up the generator, much to the boys' dread at first, and shined a great light to the horizon for many hours. I stayed the night in the top of the lighthouse, and in the morning I woke to observe the sunrise without my being coated with the chilly blanket of ocean dew I'd become accustomed to. It was Will who first saw the girl. She was swimming not far from the boat where Will was getting ready to hunt for fish. Then Will noticed a man not far away from the girl. Emmett was very pleased to meet the additional neighbours. I feel pleased to leave this age. I have set in motion events that have nothing to do with writing or the art, that will have a more profound impact on this world than I could ever have written. I think of it this age as a gift to myself that I will wrap up and open someday in the future, only to discover that it has changed so much that indeed it is a surprise. Besides, I have yet another new age that awaits me. It seems I'm going to need some way to travel underwater in this new age, and so much planning is in order. It has been 10 years since I left this age, which I have since called the Stone Ship Age. Upon returning, I cannot believe the changes that have taken place. The original 3 boys had grown into adults, and there are many new faces that I do not recognise. Branch told me that it has not rained for 7 years, and the cool breezes are back again. They are all very content and have been serving me new foods and showing me new materials they have discovered. It even seems they have found gold somewhere. I see it in many forms around the island. My lighthouse has been kept in perfect condition, and it looks as if they have tried their very best to keep it so. Yet I have noted that the entire rock it was built on has sunk approximately 40 or 50 centimetres. After a wonderful visit with my old friends, I wonder aloud to them what things will be like here in another 10 years. And then we go through a series of constellations for the rest of the book. So, rather a long passage there. I will take a quick swig of water to parch my throat. So as I said, some heavy reading there, which brings into light some of the lore of the Myst universe. The book was written from the perspective of Atris, the person in the vision pool from earlier, and he mentions the art. And at first it seems he's describing a place that he's discovered, but in fact it is a place that he has written using the art. He's created this Stone Ship Age, and he's created the basics of it, and from it, the seeds of it, these people, Will, Branch and Emmett have arrived, and he's travelled there. And yes, that did give Lord of the Rings a bit of a run for its money in terms of length, and I'm sorry No Death that it's that perhaps you wanted it to stop a bit earlier than it did, but it does give some context to the world of Myst, and I think it is sort of important for sort of giving a bit of life to the world rather than sort of simply speeding through it. We will get to more of the gameplay in just a short bit, but it just shows that the worlds, the ages that we're going to visit in a little bit, are things that have been written into existence rather than being places that we're just going through portals to. These are places that have come out of Atris's imagination, and so we start to wonder why it is that the books in the library have been burnt, and why it is that we're having to uncover these last 4 remaining books. And so we'll see these constellations here. We'll come back to those in just a moment. Looking around the rest of this library, we'll click on this picture here. It whirls, and the bookshelf recedes, and we have a secret passage, because no video game in existence is complete without a secret passage. Look around. We have an elevator. Climb up. And we can see out to the submerged ship that we saw from the dock earlier, which we can glean would probably have a link to the Stone Ship Age. Back down the ladder, walk around, symbol of a key to a puzzle, and a plaque, which I'm just going to take down the clues to. And yes, Trivial Crime, I did complete this back in the day. There were a couple of puzzles that I did have to use a walkthrough for, because they were just hard. I'm not going to lie, there were a couple of puzzles in this that a 10-year-old could not complete. I'm not going to lie. And one of them, if we probably won't get to it today, we'll probably get to it in the second stream, that I will use a walkthrough for, because it is not worth trying to struggle through. There is a way of eventually working it out using, I don't know what the term is, common sense, but using the environment around you. But it could take you months to work out the link between how to solve it and where the solution is. So, copy down October 11th, 1984, 10:04 AM. Jan 17, 12:07. 6 AM. But part of what I want to do on this stream as well is just show that the puzzles on this game are solvable. Even the slightly bullshit one that we will come across, I will show you how it is solved, but we will be using the cheat to get through it. Because one of the complaints that was levelled at Myst back in the day was that it was somewhat random or unsolvable, and to be frank, it is untrue. There were difficult puzzles, but they were never impossible puzzles. The same goes for the sequel Riven, Myst 3 and 4. When they started to get developed by other studios, then Cyan, maybe that starts to come into play a bit more, but we'll get to those when we come to them. I've got to remember how to open this again. There we go. I've got to remember how to get out. There we go. So, building we've not been in yet. This one here. For those afraid of the dentist, this is not a dentist, don't worry. What I've forgotten to do, very important, is turn off the light. What we're in is in fact an observatory. These buttons here control various parts of the date. And so the first thing we're going to do is take down the first date, which was, I do apologise for the sound glitching. This is something that's carried through from the very first edition of the game. Oh, thank you very much for following, JMC Davil. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're enjoying. So October 11th, I've got to drag this down. 1984. And the time was 10:04 AM. So we see this is matching up with one of the dates that was on the plaque in the tower. Hit the button. And what do you know? We've got a constellation. Where have we seen this constellation? In the book we just read for the Stoneship Age. So I'll copy down a rough jot of this in my on my notepad I have here. I can vaguely remember what this was, but just to be safe, so I don't get this wrong, just note that down here. Second one, January 17th. And again, I do apologise for the sound glitches. It's a bit unavoidable. That is unfortunately one of the problems with older games. Jan 17th, 12:07, 5:46 AM. Just make sure that's right, 12:07, 5:46 AM. Okay. And the final one, November 23, 6:57 PM. In the far future. Wrong way. There we go. November 23rd, 9791, 6:57. Right. Of course, this ties into what's almost a lost art with adventure games nowadays, which is making sure to have pen and paper with you at all times. Back in the old days of the sort of text adventures of the my beloved Commodore 64, games like Zork and Colossal Adventure, the text adventure games, we are basically mapping things out. Thank you for the follows, Kicker Kiss. I hope you're enjoying things. Again, despite the horrible sound issues that have resulted with that is thankfully all over now. So, we're just going to return to the library, where I'm going to read out the entire book all over again. Don't worry. We'll just go to the constellations. Could Roman Reigns go over Myst? If Vince McMahon booked it, yes. However, I don't believe that the fans would allow it. That is all I'm going to say. So, the first constellations that we saw was the Maple Leaf, so that's fine there. The second one I saw was, I believe, the Snake. And the last one is, I believe, the Beetle. So, with this knowledge, where do we go and use it? When we were exploring the island earlier for the marker switches, pass through here. See a representation of that ship down at the dock, submerged. And what we have, if I get my bearings right, are these little things here, which represent the constellations we've been seeing. Is that the right one? There's one of them. Click that on screen. We hear the sound of water. Something's rising up out of the water. And we see here, the ship in the pool has risen up. And the ship at the dock has also risen up. And so we have unlocked our first stage of Myst. Go into the captain's quarters. We find a very nice chair. We find another book. And again, a picture showing us what was described in the book we found in the library. Our icon. We click on it. We zoom in. We start teleporting. And we find ourselves on the shore of the stone ship age. And as we reach just about the 1 hour mark, what I'm going to do is just take around a 5-minute break, just wet my whistle, and just get 5 minutes away from the screen. And when I come back, we'll go and we'll discover what secrets the stone ship age holds for us. So thank you very much for joining me on this first hour of the stream. We'll be back in about 5 minutes time. Thank you. Okay, so just coming back here, just get the game up and running again. There we go. I was going to do, very important, is save the game so I don't lose everything that we've just done. Okay, so just to recap briefly where we've come so far. We've started the game, we've landed on Myst Island, we've discovered the message from Atreus to Catherine, saying that he's not sure which of his two sons to trust. We discovered both sons, Sirius and Aknar, trapped inside two prison books inside of Myst Library. Aknar seems rather manic and perhaps we can't trust him. Sirius seems more reserved but perhaps a little sinister. Can we trust him? We've read through Atreus' notes on the Stone Ship Age, which we now find ourselves in, and thus learned that the ages that we're going to be travelling to aren't places that Atreus has created portals to with books. They're places that he has written and created with his own imagination. And so we're going to explore this first age we've come to, the Stone Ship Age, and discover what's here and what's about. So, taking our first look around, we see, as described in Atreus' book, a very large rock surrounded by a rocky landscape. Compared to our first view in Myst, this seems a lot more inhospitable. It's a much more alien landscape to what we had. Whilst it's still sort of a dock style area, it's not somewhere that feels very pleasant to be in. We see down here water's filled in. We're not going down there, at least. We've got some sort of contraption there with shelter from any rainfall there may be. We have a lighthouse and we have some stairs going around up here. So a lighthouse normally seems like a safe haven. We'll have a look here. Down here is flooded. We have a key, but it's chained off and it doesn't seem to go anything just yet. And getting into the main area of the lighthouse itself, again, it requires a key, but the only one that's around is chained up and can't possibly reach it. Looking about, we see that the ship that's here is indeed embedded in the rock and of no use to us. We can't use it for transport. Let's have a look at the contraption. As soon as we touch it, we hear the familiar sound of a water pump. So let's see if that's done anything noticeable to where we've been. The water's cleared from this area here. Can we see if it makes a notable difference elsewhere as well? The light seems to indicate that only one area is going to be pumped free of water, and that seems to be the case. Lighthouse is still full. This passageway rather dark, but now free of water. And the third one, as can be surmised, now empties the lighthouse. So what we'll do is we'll just head down here. We find a chest. Can't open the chest, requires a key. Is there anything else on the chest that we can notice? A small valve. For whatever reason, the chest was filled with water. If we were to make the mistake of then filling the lighthouse back up with water, the water would simply come back in the open valve. So what we're going to do is use our logic and close that valve back up. Head back up here. And just do so. And here we have a chest that is now floated up as within reach of this key. To find another key. Our icon's now changed to show we're holding the key. Again, showing the rather minimal interface that's been spec'd into the design. And we can now use this to open the top of the lighthouse. A fairly logical puzzle there. It's one that again uses the environment around you, requires a little bit of experimentation with just using those water pumps, see what's happening with the world, using audio cues with that water pump sound when using it to know what's going on, and just exploring the 3 variations to find out what's going on, and using a little bit of common sense with the water valve on the chest to realise that if a valve's open, water going in is going to basically make the water fill up the chest again. Then we come here. This is probably going to be a bit loud, so I do apologise. I believe that's full, but just give it a couple of rotations to be safe. Very simple wind-up battery. Again, a simple concept, maybe one that perhaps we don't see as much nowadays, where things are more sort of where batteries are more lithium-ion based, charged from sort of plug sockets and USB. But back in 1993, something we probably have seen more of in the real world. And what we can see immediately, this scene, we've now got lights on in this tunnel. Have a look down here. We've already pre-cleared it. We can descend deeper into the cave. Click on this door here. And what we're going to get is our first glimpse into one of the quarters of the brothers. The brothers are rather colour-coded in this game. Sirius's quarters tend to be red in colour, and that's who we're going to be looking at here. Akthar's rather blue in colour, to correlate with the 2 prison books that they have. And as you can see here, we've got what can be best described as opulence and grace. We've got a very fine bed, we've got exotic rugs, we've got features, we've got carved wood, we've got heraldry, we've got everything you'd expect from a man who obviously lives a life of finery. As we explore around the room, we can see this elaborate silk and woven I don't know what the right word would be, because I don't have a bedspread like that. I have one that I bought from Asda. And so we can explore through the room here. We can see, again, a very finely crafted chair. We can have a look in some of these drawers. We've got an arrangement of gold and silver coins, jewellery and necklaces, fine candlesticks, silverware, plates, glasses, fine silks, the same drawer, An empty one. What's this? One of the red pages. We'll leave that there for now because we'll bring that back when we're finished with this age. What is essentially a magical office toy. Another one just there. But in this drawer we find what could be drugs, poisons. Is that a knife? Or is it just simply a letter opener? Again, these are Sirius's quarters. We've had one brief look at him so far. Again, he seemed to be, we presumed, more mentally stable than Aknar was. This is our first hint that there could be something a bit darker to him, but we can't be 100% certain. And so, we've seen so far, perhaps this is all there is to see here. And so we'll go around the side here. And we could go down the second entrance into the cave. And again, we already see a bit more of a darker and blue hue to this room. We enter in and we see a stark contrast to what we had in Sirius's room with Aknar's quarters. We've got a skeleton motif lamp. The music is more ominous. We've got hunting trophies here. We go forwards. We've got a concoction of, again, what could be drugs or chemicals. We've got a very stereotypical poison sign here on this bottle with the skull and the crossbones. I forget if any of these are interactable, but it doesn't seem so. Masks of a very sort of tribal nature here. Hit this. We've got a trinket that changes this item from a rose into a skull. And back again. If we go through these drawers, a map. Another map, more maps. What we're seeing here is something of a signs of conquest, war. We're looking here at a man who's perhaps obsessed with death and battle. We also find here the first part of a clue that we'll also find later on. I know what this says, but what it is giving us is a clue to finding the best ending to the game, which we'll piece together with something else from another age. We also find here our first blue page on what cannot be said at all to be an opulent bed. A filthy stained mattress, two pillows also covered in grime, and what else could there be there? So we venture back up to the surface and follow around. We find a telescope. We can look around, see what's here. And we find that the lighthouse, the shining light, the focal point that H was created in this realm, is positioned at 135 degrees. May come in useful. Something we will note down. I will note down on my notepad. So we'll come back from that. Whilst we're here, we can just take a quick rest. I'll take a quick swig of drink. And we can provide a view of what's still quite a barren, alien and hostile environment. We can still find some little bit of beauty in. So we seem to have looked at most of the areas here. We've still not had a look here though. Seems to be going down into a captain's quarters type area, but fortunately things are just a bit too dark to make out. If only we could get the lights on. To investigate a bit further. So we've investigated the main areas. Maybe there's something we've missed possibly on the way down here. Go down. See here, there's a little red panel here. And again, the hallmark of a video game, the secret tunnel. We find ourselves at a compass. So we know that the telescope upstairs obviously went around in a 360-degree arc. But what was a notable point on that 360-degree arc? As I mentioned, our shining light, the lighthouse. That was at 135 degrees, which should be, I believe, at this point here. Or was it that one? I may have hit the wrong button. We'll find out in a moment. If I'm right, this should be lit up. I was wrong. So, what I'll just have to do is stick the power back on up here. So okay, we all make mistakes, even on games we've played many times before. Just check the power levels there. And quick turn just to be safe again. Okay, so it was that one. There we go. My apologies there for trying to make you sit through that. So we should now be able to go up here. In fact, what we will want to do is, whilst we're down here, first off, we'll pick up one of Aknar's pages. As you can already see, things are much more brightly lit down here. Let's reach down to the captain's deck. And we find our linking book back to the original Myst Island. Open it up. And just wait for it to teleport us back. Where is this? It's not the where we landed before. Look down, and very handily it lands us back at the library. Turn around, bright eyes, and we've got a page for Aknar's book here. So pop it in and see what he has to say for us.
You've returned. You wouldn't protect. These ages rescue me. I'm Aknar. My brother, I beg you. To be complete. Always blue pages. Listen to him. Now listen to my brother. He's a fool and a liar. Bring me the blue pages. The red one. Don't bring the red one. Wrongly imprisoned. I will have my retribution. Please. Pages.
Jimmy Prime, bet that bloke's a granddad now. Yeah, you can sort of imagine, let's go visit Grandad Aknar, and the kid's going, please, no! Every time we go there for Christmas, he locks us in the basement for 3 days. The last time it was my birthday, he gave us a stag's head. So, we'll see what Aknar has to say for himself. What we're going to do very quickly is just pop back to Stoneship, and to finish things off in there is we're going to just grab Sirius's page and see what he says. Right, let's get the water pumped out of there. should, in theory, be able to still go down there, even though I can't see. Yep. Right, let's find that page again. Again, at this point in the game, we're meant to be of the belief that we're pretty sure that Akhtar is quote-unquote evil, but we're not sure if Sirius is yet. So we'll see how he comes across now that the prison book he's in is going to be a little bit more decoded. I've got to turn the lights on, of course. Right, so I'll have to go through all this rigmarole again. Apologies. Okay. Water. Right, that should be the last time we have to do all that. Do apologise for having to do the runaround. Right, let's see what Sirius has to say for himself.
Return. Thank you for bringing me with me. You must continue. My name is Sirius. I beg you, fine. Remain there. You must. Stay from this ball till you come. I need more red pages, please. Beg. Don't waste time. Look. Don't touch me. Brother. My brother. And I wrongfully imprisoned. Bring the red page to me.
So, Sirius appears to be well aware that he's brother is a wrong 'un. Again, we're not much closer from that interaction as to finding out whether or not Sirius himself is a bad guy. But we'll find out more as we go on. So, we completed our first stage there. So what we'll do is work towards unlocking the next one. We'll go to here and move this tower along a bit with a horrible, horrible noise. Now we'll see what clue has been unlocked for us. Of course, through the secret passage, up the elevator, and to the tower. We can see that the clue we're going to be looking at is related to here, the tallest tree in the small forest that's on the island. Seven, 2, 4. First I'm going to get horrendously lost. Do a quick save. Right, and we'll start reading on the next age we're going to, the Channelwood age. I have called this age Channelwood, and it is a very different world. Though it is exactly how I imagined it, it is still amazing to see it with my own eyes. Water covers this age as far as I can see, except for a small rocky island. Elsewhere there are only trees which grow directly out of the water. A myriad of thin wooden passageways are built just above the water and disappear into the forest. I assume they were built some time ago, for they appear aged. I am eager to discover more about this land and its people, but I've arrived here late and I must rest. I was awakened this morning by strange noises coming from a pathway adjacent to the one on which I had slept. I saw a group of monkey-like people heading in my direction. They had not seen me yet. I did not feel threatened by their presence. Their response to me was one that I would have never expected. After staring at me for a short time, they fell to their knees and began what appeared to be some sort of ceremonial worship. I tried to speak to them, but they did not understand my language. Instead, they indicated through enthusiastic hand motions that I was to follow them. As we walked, I began to notice that the waters below us were changing colours. Slowly, subtly, they would change from deep blue to muddy orange, then from muddy orange to beautifully clear. I was so intrigued by the water, I hardly noticed that we had arrived at a ladder. Climbing the ladder led us to their village, which is about 10 metres above the water, and can only be reached by rope ladders that stretch from the lower paths to the village level, approximately halfway up the grand trees. It is very interesting watching these people carry out their daily tasks. Even after watching them for hours, I did not understand exactly what they were doing. At sunset they motioned for me to follow them. I followed the creatures to the doorway of an enormous hut. Strangely, once inside, I found that the hut appeared even larger than it had from the outside. The walls were garnished with bright metals, and in the centre of the hut sat the leader of these people. At least he appeared to be their leader, for he sat a metre off the floor in a thick throne. Guards surrounded the strong creature, who was dressed in many exotic colourful fabrics. Next to the leader sat a very old human. At least to some extent he appears human. His hair, which was only on his face and head, was completely grey, almost white, and hung very long around his frail body. His thin head hung limply by an almost grotesque neck that could not hold its head up to look at me. But what a surprise! This creature could speak my language. Shortly thereafter, I was given a bed with some hand motions that looked to be telling me to go to sleep. I look forward to learning more. As I suspected, the ancient creature is a human, but he is old beyond his own reckoning and seems almost insane. However, the tree dwellers always revere him as a god. They are treating me now in the same fashion, which makes me feel very uncomfortable. It is almost impossible to understand this old man. His voice is feeble but wild. He has adopted much of the language of the tree dwellers. He himself has told me he has not spoken our own tongue in ages. He attempted to explain to me the history of this place. The following is the best translation of what he has told me. Many years ago, the humans and tree dwellers lived together in this place, which was then a vast island. They interacted very little. The humans dwelt on the ground, and the tree dwellers lived high above the humans. Occasionally, the island was disturbed by mysterious rumblings which happened randomly. Some sort of tectonic or volcanic action, I suspect. The sometimes slight, sometimes heavy tremors would only last a short time. Then they would stop, allowing everything to return to normal. One day, things changed. The rumbling began and grew quickly to unprecedented levels. Soon it became apparent that the entire island was sinking slowly into the ocean around them. Many of the humans died that day, but not before sacrificing themselves in order to stop the sinking of the island. The humans who lived through this catastrophe moved into the trees, where they gradually died out, maybe because they were unequipped for such an environment, but I am not sure. This is the story the old man communicated to me, although many details are very unclear in my mind. I am especially confused as to how the humans saved the island from completely sinking. In fact, I doubt the accuracy of that part of the story. The island must have stopped on its own, yet the old man believes in the truth of the story as if he had been there. And the tree dwellers worship him, and apparently all humans, as if they were heroes or gods. The old man ended our conversation today with an event which I will never forget. He began gripping my hands tightly, murmuring something about rest and asleep. He then said, "We had expected you to come sooner." These actions filled me with a sort of immediate dread. With much effort, he stood to his feet. I tried to help, but he pushed me away with more force than I imagined his frail body contained. The tree dwellers quietly surrounded him with very solemn faces. They then kneeled before him. He walked to each and placed his hand on their heads. All the while, he murmured words which I did not understand. Finally, he turned to me and smiled. Then he closed his eyes and walked out the door and off of the narrow path high in the trees. The tree dwellers were silent. They began the procession down the nearest rope ladder. As I was descending, I saw several of them pick up the body. He had fallen onto a lower level of walkway and carry it away. He was laid down at the dead end of a short pier-like structure. With the use of some potion, one of the tree creatures lit the pier on fire, and I watched as the flames engulfed him. As this strange funeral proceeded, the waters around the pier changed to dull green. This morning I awoke, finding it hard to even believe the previous evening's events. The water is a dull green for as far as I can see now. For some reason, the water no longer shifts colour. As I wander throughout the pathways, the creatures watch me, curious to see what I will do next. They are constantly offering me strange objects of affection. I even found food outside the doorway to the room in which I had slept. This is a unique race of beings. I hope to learn their language soon, that I may learn more from them. I have lived on this world for 3 months off and on, and the tree dwellers have shown great hospitality. I am even beginning to learn bits of their language. I have decided to return home for an extended stay with my loving wife and my sons, and hopefully return with them. However, I am sure Catherine will once again refuse. I think this age would be a wonderful experience for them all, and I at least look forward to how Sirius and Aknar will react to its curious inhabitants. Catherine is staying behind, as expected. My sons have returned with me, and they enjoy this age very much. They get along very well with the tree dwellers and are picking up their language surprisingly fast. I have no doubt that it will not be too long until they can speak with the tree dwellers much better than myself. I am leaving tomorrow to check on Osmoan age. Sirius has suggested that I allow him and his brother to stay. Though the idea unsettles me, I know the boys are growing up rapidly. The hospitality of these creatures is such that I can think of no better place to leave them alone for a short while, so I will consent to their request. I warned the boys not to take advantage of the respect the tree dwellers have for their ideas. They seem to understand my warning, and I have faith they will follow it. Much to my dismay, upon arriving in Everdunes, I learned that Pran and her people are continuing to be menaced by the Chakotay. I fear for their survival and plan on returning to her shortly after checking on Sirius and Aknar here. See Everdunes Journal for more information. After watching Sirius and Aknar, I see they are handling things very well, and I think I can put to rest any fears about leaving them in Channelwood again, and for a little longer time. The tree dwellers seem slightly distressed that I am leaving, but are happy that Sirius and Aknar are staying behind again. I have been gone for over 3 days, and have been to many different places. I had to tell Sirius and Aknar about Pran's death today, and they were visibly shaken, although they only remembered her from their childhood. Catherine has suggested that it would be wise for Sirius and Aknar to leave Channelwood for a while, and I have to agree. They will be returning with me when I leave again. I have told my sons that they will be returning with me in 2 days. They spent the entire night telling me of an adventure they experienced in my absence, and it was rather remarkable. It seems they constructed a boat with the creatures and travelled some ways out into the surrounding waters. I enjoy hearing them talk excitedly of their adventures, and am reminded of my own adventures as a child. I finally understand why the tree dwellers have been giving me their many inks and insisting I write with them. Looking through some of my past entries, I see now that the inks have changed from the black I thought they were, to various different colours. I have shown some of the creatures my journal, and they laughed and howled. I did not know they had such a sense of humour. Even now, as I look through this very colourful journal, I cannot help but laugh myself. We will be returning tomorrow, so my sons are with the creatures for the last night here. They have told me they would like for me to come to Channelwood again. They have told me they would like to come to Channelwood again, and also asked if they can visit some other ages alone. They will have to think over their request. I believe they have proven to me that they are trustworthy and responsible. Catherine will also have to help me decide whether they are ready for travel alone. For now, I must give my farewells to the creatures, for I do not know how long it will be until I visit this age again. So again, a rather in-depth look into Apris's travel to an age that is created. We're getting a bit more of a background into Sirius and Aknar and their early forays into an age that Apris has created. they've built up this trust with Atris into that they were left alone in an age, and seem to have built up trust with Atris as well as the inhabitants of an age. We see with Aknar that he's undoubtedly abused that trust in at least one age. We'll see whether he's abused that trust again in the Channelwood age. I imagine it's going to be the case. We'll see what secrets Sirius's quarters will reveal in Channelwood when we reach them. We see here a diagram of some of the village that we'll get to in Channelwood. Some diagrams of the locale. And we'll see about unlocking our route into Channelwood. So we'll start heading towards this forested area. We have here a generator. Doesn't appear to be on. Got a combination safe. What we were seeing earlier on from the tower was thankfully the combination. So it's written down here because I would never have remembered it myself. 7, 2. Just gone past it. 4. What's inside is a box of matches. And of course, using a bit of motion action there to actually light said matches. Hearing noise from outside. Where's that coming from? See his chamber going up. See it going up into the sky. So that chamber can't really be leading anywhere, can it? To stop for now. Let's go back into the hut and see what happens when we turn the wheel the other way. And we see it's coming back down. We're descending deep into the earth. And we find our next linking book to the Channelwood age. See, looking a little bit more hospitable than the Stoneship age did. We can see in our brief fly around, got the village suspended in the trees described in the book that we had a lengthy read through for. And immediately we get the oral sounds Hear bird song, frogs. Rippling water. Water against wood. And we turn and we see a number of wooden platforms crisscrossing between the trees, some heading off to a odd box-like contraption, some towards some manner of a spiral staircase, some towards this windmill off in the distance. We follow it along. See, this one's got a little junction. We look down, see this. Not quite sure what that's for yet, but I'm sure we'll work out when it comes to it. We look around here. See that the pipe terminates at this little bit here. Can't seem to interact with it. Have a gate here that's locked, presumably from the other side. There's another junction point. So we'll keep heading what appears to be the main route that we can actually head down at the moment. I seem to be following what's gone from copper piping to rubber tubing. And we can hear what's unmistakably the sound of running water. And we read something that's looking a bit more out of place, but we have some moving equipment here. See what's going on down here. We can see we've got what looks like a pump system, bringing water up from there, presumably being powered by this windmill, into here. Over to this contraption. Is it broken? Appears to be. But now, what we're hearing that we didn't hear before, having moved that tap, is the sound of water coming along this pipe. So again, we're using environmental cues from what was around us to notify that we've now activated a water-based system coming into these pipes along these paths. So where is this water leading to, or what does it do? So at the moment, so this junction pipe, presumably these Pac-Man style dots are indicating where the water is going to. So if I were to shift it in this direction, we'll go here, and now what was once silent, we now have this water-based pump engine now working. Unfortunately, wherever it's powering up there, we can't get to just yet. So we'll come back and switch it back so it's going in this. Now, at the moment, it's coming over to here and to here, which is a dead end, which is no good to us. So let's switch that there. So now I'll feed it across to here. Now it comes to here. No gap here. What happens if we pull on this lever? We now have a bridge. And all this running water is making me a bit thirsty. Just before we go that way, no, before we go that way, mouse, see if there's anything else that can be activated. This here is a dead end. I believe we can reach that in a bit. Okay, there. Right, so hopefully gone in circles. Unfortunately, one downside of the slideshow format and what is ostensibly a maze layout is that you can get a bit turned around, especially in this particular age. It's an unfortunate drawback from the time. Right, hopefully this should go across, and we should have water coming through. Nope, I've messed that up somehow. No, not that way. Want the water to be going there, there. That's right. That's right. That's not. There we go. Silly me. So, we should now be able to use this elevator once we close the door. And of course, with again the limitations of the QuickTime video system at the time, restricting the visible video to, again, about the size of what we see in the linking books to this small porthole here. So that is how we get the linking book back to Myst. What we want to do is explore this world a little bit more than what we've done so far. So what we need to do is see what Sirius and Aknar have been up to. So we need to go and get that lift activated. Okay, we'll close that, and you'll see it is only this little window that's going to be activated in terms of motion video. And so, as you can see, we've got the village that was described in Avis's book. I think it's safe to say somewhat inspired by the Ewok village from Return of the Jedi. As we go around it, you'll see it's it suffers a bit from that fantasy trope of looking very nice and rustic, but you sort of fail to see how any sort of civilization could in fact live there, but you'll see as we travel around it. So let's have a wander around. We'll just check if there's anything behind us. I don't think there is. No. Let's go in. Again, another thing you'll notice is there's nobody here. What's happened to this race of sort of monkey-like people that Atris came across? We've got overturned tables, signs of maybe unrest, a rebellion perhaps, or even conquest. Again, things in a state of disarray, overturned pots, baskets upturned, things looking like they just haven't been used in quite a while. And of course, sort of, I do appreciate that 3D modelling being somewhat still primitive at the time, it's not like they could fully craft a, well, not exactly a luxurious resort, but something fully living and breathing. But of all the ages, this does feel certainly one that doesn't quite feel so lived in. So, right, now if we can we open that door yet? I don't believe so. Close that. So for those that can't see the chat, Jimbo Prime just saying, it's pretty sure that there's places to stay in Bali that they charge 3,000 a week for staying in that look like this village. I'm certainly hoping that at the very least the bridges are looking a little less ramshackle than that. Because, again, taking in the audio cues here, it's sounding pretty creaky. I wouldn't be caught dead. Well, I probably would be dead walking across these bridges. It's sounding a bit ramshackle. Again, just building in that sort of audio cue of this place is sounding extremely deserted. And yet it is all part of the charm. Now, I know there is a way we can essentially create a shortcut round so that we can explore Sirius and Aknar's quarters. I've just got to remember how to do it. Because we've got to activate this lift somehow, and it involves going down these stairs. I think we've got to get power to it. Let's try just popping back down to the waterways and see if we can reroute some of that water power. That's the tables, baskets. I'm going to get myself lost. I've gotten myself lost. Right, so that way. Another reason why I don't like this age, unfortunately, because of the slight lack in distinction of the location. It is unfortunately a bit too easy to get yourself turned around. Fortunately, there we go. Nothing's perfect. This is unfortunately just one of those bits of the game that you have to get through. So let's see about activating that other lift. Right, so that was that one. So the other lift is over there, isn't it? Oh no, we're looking for the spiral staircase lift, aren't we? So I can't open that. There what? As we're into our second hour, I'm just going to take a quick 5-minute break. I'll have a quick look at just how to activate that second lift whilst we're off, because it's incredibly boring to see me wandering around in a circle for 20 minutes trying to remember how to do this bit. And once we come back, we'll activate that and we'll get the rest of this age finished. So we'll be back in 5 minutes, we'll get this sorted and we'll get on to some slightly more interesting parts. Just tap out there, put that on mute, and we'll be back in 5. And we're back. I've discovered what I missed, because I'm a bit of an idiot. So let's just get this all out of the way again. Right. There was unfortunately a lever that I thought I had pulled whilst I was up there, but unfortunately my memory was playing tricks on me, so we'll just get that out of the way and then the doorway should open. But I've given you a lovely scenic tour of the Channelwood Age, so I've just got to remember where that lever was. Here? No. So. No, oh, it's back. We will find it. We will overcome. We just may go a little bit mad finding it. There we go. Gate open. That's the problem. When it's an old game that you've played a number of times, you find yourself pretty sure that you've done things because your memory tells you that you've done it. Right, we can now go down these stairs, unlock the gate and provide power to this elevator. Right, so we find ourselves in now the topmost level, looking down on the rest of the village, and this is where we'll find Aknar and Sirius's quarters. First one, Aknar. We step in, and again we... Oh. I've forgotten about that. So again we see the sort of tribal war masks hanging on the wall. We've got a spiky contraption. Click on it. And it looks very much like it's meant to remove body parts from unlucky people. Rather ritualistic looking candle holders. Essentially a rather morbid looking room in general. So again, Aknar not looking like the nicest of people. and sleeping again in sort of the barest of accommodations. He's not a man for the opulence and grace. What do we have here? Presumably these are all being recorded in the dialect of the native people for this age. Whether they're a warning, a threat, a command, obviously we don't know. There's no translation ever provided. But it's certainly not being presented in a friendly tone. But again, we're seeing everything being presented in the blue colour tone for Aknar.
I hope I pushed the right button, my dear brother. What a very interesting device you have here. I'm not erasing anything important, am I? Remember, he is preparing. Take only one page, my dear brother.
And we get our first glimpses that really point towards Sirius perhaps not being on the side of good, as it were. He's obviously colluding with Aknar in some form, and seems to be aware of a plan that Aethys is forming. And we see here we've got a blue page as well. We're going to pick that up because I think we'll take that back with us. If we go through here, we should find Sirius's room. And again, the contrast is pretty clear. We've got a much more decorated and stylised room. Sirius is a man who, even in the middle of the Ewok village, has managed to secure himself a king-size bed with a fine mattress and duvet and covers, a table and a chair, a wash basin, and some manner of electric or gas lamp lighting. He's not going to integrate with the natives. He's used to the luxuries in life. He's not going to slum it, as it were. So let's see what else he's got lying around here. He's got a nice view from glass-plated windows. He's not going to have a draft coming in. In the drawer, we've got the page. We've got what seems to be sort of an ink quill here for writing with. We've got the page that we'll come back for later. We've got an upturned chair and a broken chair. So, despite the rather slightly posh demeanour and the stylised outgoings, we can ascertain that maybe Sirius is actually prone to outbursts of anger and rage. He's not quite as calm, cool and collected as he might outwardly show. Again, we see a knife, perhaps used for carving what appears to be some type of food. Again, could be a letter opener. Again, could be a hint of a more subtle weapon instead of Aknar's more outwardly warlike approach. and an empty desk. The bed, as I said before, much more luxurious than anything else we're seeing in this age. In here, a much more weaponized knife, something that you would more likely to see in a stereotypical rogue or assassin's kit. And in here we've got another part of the puzzle for getting the best ending for the game, along with some bottles which we can ascertain would be likely to be wines, fine wines, scattered around the room as well, just to go along with that idea of Sirius wanting the finer things in life. And so we will head back downstairs, well, down lift. We should have a fairly easy access to the linking book back to Myst. Son of a bitch. Right, where have I gone wrong here? Right, that's right. Right, that should be working now. It's not. Did I mention how I hate this age? It's not like the puzzle is quote-unquote bullshit. It all works together logically. That does not mean that I have to subjectively like it, however. Right, that should be it. There we go. And so we'll make our return to the library and see what the next thing Aknar has to say is.
Good. Still more pages you find. Bring more. I must have some more. All I ask of you. Long. It's so long since my brother, Sirius, wrongfully imprisoned me within this book. Stupid schemes. Pretty speech. Greed, which is endless. Should be perfectly obvious to you. He's done evil and he has destroyed all before. Do not bring the red pages to him. Not let him trick you. He tricked our father. Hideously murdered our father. He'll trick you. Murder you. Don't touch the red pages. I beg you to bring the blue pages. To me, listen, you must obey me. Blue pages are my only hope. You must help me. You must help me.
So, Aknar's still not really doing himself any favours there. Although we now see he's starting to implicate Sirius as being the criminal of the two of them. The one who's created these trap books. So perhaps, whilst Aknar's not been the nicest of people, perhaps Sirius is the one who's created this trap and accidentally gotten himself caught up in it himself. That will have to remain to be seen. So what we'll do is, just to round things off for today, is we'll pop back to Channelwood very quickly. We'll grab Sirius's page, see what he has to say for himself, and end things after that. So let's wait for the big banging wood to do its thing. Okay. Travel back here for hopefully the last time. I unfortunately don't know the words to the Ewoks Yub Nub song beyond Yub Nub. I also don't really know the tune. I also can't hold a tune. So I'm not singing the Yub Nub song on stream. Apologies for anyone disappointed by this. Well, General Prime is not disappointed. I can't remember which direction I'm going. Yeah, it's that way. Right, let's grab Sirius's page. Thankfully, a lot less convoluted getting back home this time. And also, just to put your mind at rest, I won't play the Yub Nub song because that'll get me muted. So, what does Sirius have to say?
Have returned. Official page. We from my prison on this forgotten island of Myst. I see that you are. I am called Sirius. I need all the red pages. I know. Must search and bring 2 more for the red pages. I am released. I promise. Don't touch the blue pages. That's for my brother. For my wicked brother. He is a man of distorted mind and senses. He disgusts me. Do not release Akhenaten. Thirst for destruction is not. Never ending. Bring the red paper. Please release me from this prison. I promise you will be greatly rewarded. You must help me. Help me.
And so, sort of topping things off there, we have Sirius blaming Aklar for essentially setting up this trap and saying that he's not to be trusted. It's sort of now beginning to build up with this admittedly sort of somewhat lightweight sort of in-game story that we're starting to get the sense that maybe both brothers are somewhat untrustworthy. And as we start adding these pages to the book, maybe we shouldn't be helping either one of them. But we'll get more on that as we receive the final 2 pages for each brothers as we explore the final 2 ages in the second and most likely final stream from Myst. That'll be happening on Thursday this week at the same time. That'll be 7 PM BST, 2 PM EST and 11 AM PST. As I say, that'll be Myst. I already know which game will be streaming for next week, and again that will be Tuesday and Thursday at the same times. Next week is going to be System Shock 2, which will be a change of pace from this, and then I will be seeing System Shock 2 through to the end, but it will be probably changing up games, probably doing a different game on Tuesdays and Thursdays just to keep things a bit different. So we'll probably doing sort of a point and click game on a Tuesday and a more action based game on a Thursday, just to make sure that sort of different tastes are being catered for. I've got some ideas for what will be coming up, but we'll finalise that over the next couple of weeks. But definitely Myst finishing that off this Thursday and doing a couple of days of System Shock 2 for Tuesday and Thursday next week. Thank you very much for everyone who's been on and off stream for today. Big thank you to Jimville Prime for today, for having been here for pretty much all of the streams today. Big thumbs up to you, and thank you very much for watching. Big thank you to anyone who's watching in the future catch up. Today is July 24th 2018. If you're watching in the future, the big nuclear war has not happened yet. If it's happened to you, stay warm, stay safe, watch out for the giant nuclear scorpions. Catch you later.